Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this public session of the Citizens Assembly on Gender Equality. Today is the second part of our discussion on the topic of gender equality in the workplace, and we'll be focusing today on work, social protection, and tax issues. There's no real need to repeat what you discussed on the 14th of November, but of course we'll all have that in mind because there are many different elements linked together in the workplace. As you've already seen, we are now getting deeper and deeper into issues of substance, and we're actually building up an impressive set of views and potential recommendations for the end of our work. As always, we need to find the right balance between being too general and simplistic and getting trapped into too much detail. One of the members of the steering group said to me recently that his purpose in participating in the Assembly is to help bring about a fair society for his grandkids. And I think that's a good aim to have in mind as we work through the different topics. What would a fair society look like? Or to frame the question in the context of today's discussion, what would a more gender equal work and social protection system look like if we were responsible for designing it? In earlier sessions, we looked at the history of how the lives of women in Ireland were restricted by legislation and practice, holding them back from following their own paths. And while much has changed for the better, there are still features in our laws and in the implementation of work and social protection policies that still bear the stamp of yesterday's Ireland. And by that I mean Ireland in the past, where the vast majority of cases, the man was the breadwinner and had a stay-at-home wife who had no independent income and whose years of family care were never economically valued. As Dr. Mary Murphy put it in her fascinating video, work and social protection policies affect the whole of a woman's life cycle. If she leaves school early and enters low-paid and precarious employment, and then has career breaks because of family care responsibilities, in fact, if she's one of the 100,000 invisible women Dr. Murphy referred to, she may end up a very poor pensioner at the end of her lifetime of working and caring, and particularly if she is separated, divorced, or widowed in the course of her life. These points were all brought out, I think, very clearly in our advocacy video. And the speakers from the National Women's Council, from ICTU, and the INOU all made specific recommendations on how to change and improve the current situation, from individualisation of supports to providing credits for part-time work and caring responsibilities. And you should feel free to draw on these in your discussion in the breakout groups. You'll have noticed that Dr. Murphy put the emphasis on the female life cycle, and so too do the speakers in our advocacy panel video. And this is because the impact of our present system still puts quite a large number of women into a situation of dependency, which counts against them throughout their lives. But listening to our speakers, you'll also have noted for yourselves that some of the shortcomings of our system also apply to men. For example, those who leave school early and then work in low-paid or precarious jobs. Some of them are lone parents or carers too, although statistically the overwhelming number of caregivers are women. Now, I'm making this point to underline the fact that a gender-neutral work and social protection system that focuses on the situation of the person rather than on their marital situation or their employment status, that would actually lead to a fairer outcome for everyone. In his video, Dr. Eoin O'Malley said, we need to tell the politicians what the problem is. And that's really a good way of summarising what the Citizens Assembly is all about. So the first thing we want you to do today in the morning breakout groups is to decide, is there a problem in our work, social protection and tax system? And if you think there is, how would you describe that problem to the politicians? Remembering, of course, that the results of our work is going to be addressed to them. The second thing that we ask you to do today, and this will be in the afternoon, is to put forward some specific suggestions for actions that you feel would improve the situation. The different speakers, including the advocacy groups and the people who will share their personal videos with us during the morning, that's a video you haven't seen yet, they are all making specific recommendations to us. And to help you with your discussions, the Secretariat has brought all of these together in the document that you have received, and you can use it as a source of inspiration and as a checklist of the kind of measures that could address the problems you identify. One thing I want to mention specifically, because it came up a lot at the breakout groups last time round, is that since the last meeting, we sent you information you might find of interest on the legislation that was actually enacted in 2018 and which banned 0 hours contracts in most cases. Now, to start off today's proceedings, we're going to show you a short video made by The Economist magazine. It illustrates the benefits to society, as well as parents and children, of parental leave. And very timely, you may have heard earlier this week an announcement by Minister Roderick O'Gorman of his intention to increase parents' leave to 9 weeks for both parents, as was mentioned by Chris Ryan in his video. And I just want to quote one thing the Minister said from his announcement. He said that the leave will be the same number of weeks per parent, the same rate of pay per parent. This creates the idea that it's available to both, and that the equality is based on a societal expectation that all parents are involved in caring for their children. So with that, we're going to now play you the short video, and then we will come back for the question and answer session.
Despite decades of social progress in the workplace, women still have to contend with the lion's share of childcare. While most countries allow up to 3 months of maternity leave, only around half a dozen countries offer fathers more than 2 weeks paternity leave. In Denmark, 90% of dads take more than a fortnight's leave. Research suggests that enabling fathers to look after their newborn children has positive knock-on effects. What are the benefits of paternity leave? First, fathers who take paternity leave are more likely to take an active role in childcare tasks. According to a study of 4 rich countries, America, Australia, Britain and Denmark, fathers who had taken paternity leave were more likely to feed, dress, bathe and play with their child long after the period of leave had ended. Danish men were the most diligent. 77% of them play with their children. Second, this early interaction has longer-term benefits for a child's learning abilities. A study by the University of Oslo found that paternity leave improved children's performance at secondary school. Daughters, especially, seemed to flourish if their dads had taken time off. But this tends to benefit children whose dads come from more advantaged backgrounds. Most paternity leave tends to be short and poorly paid, so richer dads are more likely to take the time off. Third, paternity leave is good for women's careers. When childcare responsibilities fall exclusively to the mother, the effect is to depress women's wages. Time out of the labour force deprives them of experience and promotions. When men shoulder more of the childcare burden, the effect is lessened. For years, the priority for women's rights campaigners has been to increase the provision of maternity leave. These days, more governments are starting to believe that the best way to improve women's career prospects is instead to turn to the dads.
The Economist.